year for the Will Counts Photojournalism Award. To be eligible, contestants had to submit 10 to 15 photos as examples of their work, and at least 5 of those had to be published in a newspaper in the calendar year of 2008. The contest is open to college students and to professional photographers with no more than 5 years of experience on a daily newspaper. The entries were judged to determine the best potential of a developing photojournalist. You will see samples of our winner's work on the screen as I tell you about him. This year, a Will Counts winner has been a staff photographer at the Post-Tribune in Maribel since October of 2007. He previously worked at the Courier-News in Elgin in northwest suburbs of Chicago. He interned at the Northwest Herald at Crystal Lake, also in that area, and at the Courier-News. He is a 2005 graduate of the University of Illinois in Champaign-Urbana. He believes still images can help shape our communities and the world similar to the way Will Counts images from Little Rock, Arkansas did in 1957. He said his community in northwest Indiana deals with thinly veiled racism, drug and gang problems, and the declining economic conditions that dominate national news coverage these days. His understanding of the power of photographs was never so great than in the coverage of 2 disasters that struck northwest Indiana in the past year, a tornado and floods. He said the still images coming from the disaster zones captured the vastness of the tragedy that could not be seen on television. He said that people affected by the disasters wanted their story told and were gracious enough to let him document their struggle. He noted that some of the images were picked up by the AP. He also saw them on newspaper websites in England and Australia, and he said he's glad to know that he was part of telling these stories. Please join me in congratulating the 2009 Will Counts Photojournalism Award winner, Scott Ford. Present the plaque to Scott, and then we'll speak a little bit herself.
I am so delighted to give this to Scott, and I think he's going to go far. I think you better be watching out for him. I think he's got a really good talent. He's got an eye for seeing things that some of us will never be able to see. We may be standing right next to him with a camera, but he photographs something that really makes a big difference, and ours might turn out to be just a snapshot. So, Scott, it's with great pleasure I present this to you. Will Counts decided to make photojournalism his career while studying in Miss Edna Middlebrooks journalism class at Little Rock High School. It's now Little Rock Central High School. During the Central High integration crisis between '57 and 1960, he worked as a photographer for the Arkansas Democrat, where one of his photographs was runner-up for the 1957 Pulitzer Prize in photography. In 1960, he became a photo editor for the Associated Press in Chicago and later an AP photographer in Indianapolis. In fact, it was at an AP spring meeting that the department chairman of journalism at IU, John Stemple, invited him to teach photojournalism at Indiana University. From 1963 to 1995, he taught at the Indiana University School of Journalism, where he directed the school's photojournalism sequence. In 1997, while a visiting professor at his undergraduate alma mater, the University of Central Arkansas, Counts returned to Central High to document the school's 40 years after the integration crisis. Ironically, it was his daughter Claudia Counts, who was at that time the enterprise editor of the Associated Press in New York City, who assigned him the job of returning to Central High School to document what the school looked like 40 years later. The book, A Life is More Than a Moment, tells the story of those painful and turbulent times, but it does not leave you there in addition to these immortal photographs. Will took new photographs of many of the original subjects. This book portrays an ugly hatred, but in the end, it is also a book of hope and reconciliation. And I want Scott to have a copy of this book.
Well, first I want to thank the Associated Press and I'm not used to being in the spotlight. I don't like being on the side of the camera. It's just unnatural for me, so I'll make this quick. I want to thank and introduce my wife, Beth, my mother, Sandra, my father, Frank, and also my managing editor, Diane Hayes, is in the back there. Keep an eye on me. I also want to thank, although they're not here, the photo department, my editor, Andy LaValle, who has been talking to me for the last 2 weeks with just sending emails back saying, WWWCD, what would Will Counts do? So if I had a question, I would just get that reply, and not that much fun. But they worked extremely hard to allow me to work on projects like the Paulina family as they recovered from the tornado, or just the amount of time I got to put in for the flooding that we had. They were able to pick up extra assignments and allow me to just spend more time in the field. I have hope for our industry. If I can cite our now President Obama, I have hope that we will be here in 10 years, 50 years. The newspapers are not going away. We can't. We are the first level of history. We are the ones who are writing the history for future generations to analyze. And if we lose newspapers, we lose not only obviously our jobs, but we lose that first layer of history. And as a person who is a historian himself, I just can't fathom a world without newspapers. So my message is keep hope alive, keep new flight, and let's just have fun. Without fun, what do we got? It's just a job. Thank you very much.